Hey, it's Jean Nolan here. Listen, with everything that's going on in the world today, it's the perfect time to become self-sufficient, grow your own food if you can, and prepare with emergency food. You won't regret having this when you need it. And right now you can save $250 on a 3-month food kit from My Patriot Supply. It's their lowest price in 3 years. Go to preparewithinspired.com and get your $250 saving on this 3-month emergency food kit. That's preparewithinspired.com. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's Jean Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us again today on this journey of consciousness expanding. Thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for commenting. Thank you for subscribing and hitting the notifications button so you'll get notified about new videos. Today's topic, I think, is very, very important. We are in the age of discernment, on our way into the age of enlightenment. The age of discernment is really about figuring out what is real and what isn't, what is truth and what isn't, and what is fake. And so today we want to talk about conspiracy theories, why most of them are wrong, but actually right. So the term conspiracy theory, of course, was created artificially to put a stamp on everybody who questions the narrative about a particular event. But here's the thing. We have kind of gotten it all wrong when we look at these events. First of all, we need to understand what is being said about any particular topic, especially events where most people are watching because they're being projected everywhere. There are big ones out there that we have all seen and heard about over and over again. I don't know whether that's the assassination of JFK or whether that's 9/11 or COVID-19 and so much and so forth. There's so many other topics. We'll talk about that. But what we need to understand is what we're being presented with is not the truth, is not the baseline to go off. It is a narrative. But based on this narrative, we can then see what we are being led to believe. So that's the first thing. Now that we've cleared that up, how do we actually go about dissecting and finding out what the truth about a particular subject is? Let's take JFK, for example, his assassination. What people are trying to do or have been trying to do for a long time is to figure out who did it, why they did it, and whatnot. And that shouldn't be the first thing to look at, right? The first thing to look at is what is not true. How can we dissect the official narrative? Because as soon as inconsistencies arise, we can already say, okay, they are lying to us. This is really important because it serves multiple purposes. First of all, we see who is truthful and who is not, who's trustworthy and who is not, who is in on it and who is not. And that in and of itself allows us to withdraw energy. That's what should have happened time and time again. With JFK, it was really, really easy. Even in that time where they didn't have the internet, they didn't have the technology, but very soon it became clear that certain things were done on the highest level. The route was changed that day of where he was, his entourage, his caravan, where it was supposed to drive around Dallas. That was changed very, very last minute. The security detail was much lower than usual. It didn't make sense from any standpoint, especially security standpoint, where they directed the president's convertible that day because it was so exposed and so hard to secure. Then, of course, there are multiple eyewitness reports, many people who report multiple shots, multiple shooters. A lot of them have died very, very soon after, and there are inconsistencies over inconsistencies. That in and of itself, and then you combine that with the Warren Commission that came out, that brought out the report later about the magic bullet, a bullet that flies like this and that, and then goes back and out of the body and back into the head and then goes into the governor and whatnot. What we see is inconsistencies and lies. So the first purpose is to realize that what isn't true matters more in the beginning than what is true. The thing is, it's so hard to have access to the kinds of documents and to the kinds of researchers and facts that would allow us to see the whole picture. But if people had back then done the right thing, they would have withdrawn all of their trust from the government, from the media, from the law enforcement, FBI, and everyone who was involved in the uncovering of this and in the investigation, because nothing made sense. Look at 9/11. Let's take a subject that is closer to all of you, maybe, because you were around and you've seen it happen. So we were led to believe that on 9/11, a bunch of guys with box cutters managed to hijack multiple planes, fly them into some of the world's most secure buildings like the Pentagon, the World Trade Center in the middle of Manhattan. Another plane was crashed, another was diverted. We're led to believe that this is what happened and that it was all orchestrated by someone in a cave in Afghanistan who later managed for 10 years, more than 10 years, to stay undetected, given the most sophisticated technology that the military and the governments of the world have to detect even the smallest thing anywhere in the world. This story was so easily to be dissected. Within a matter of days, people came out and said, that just doesn't work that way. Planes don't crash into buildings that way. Buildings have never collapsed from intense fires before, let alone at such a pace. Free fall, free explosion. I mean, the inconsistencies in this story are just so huge. So within a matter of days, it was verifiable that the media was lying, the government was lying, law enforcement was lying. I don't say this that everybody was intentionally lying, but the people who put out the narrative for others to repeat were lying, and those who repeated it, whose job it would have been to investigate further, lied also. So once we realize that the narrative isn't true, and it isn't just off by a few percent, it's not true at all, the second thing we need to look at is who reacts in what way? What are the reactions to these events? What did Lyndon B. Johnson do after being sworn in as president? What was the first action? Lyndon B. Johnson reversed the creation of an actual treasury dollar as a replacement for the Federal Reserve dollar. That was what JFK and his administration had in the works, to create a treasury dollar, to remove the power from the central bank and actually take the power back. And that was the first action of Lyndon B. Johnson. So who benefited? How did they react is the first question. Second question is who benefited? That's how you much easier find out who all was involved. What about 9/11? Who benefited? What were the reactions? The reactions were fear, trauma, panic. That's what they brought out to the people. Then, immediately, after a few days, really, they presented thousands of pages of the Patriot Act bill, which of course was written way before, but they made it seem as if it was a reaction to 9/11, when it is much likelier that 9/11 was created to have the possibility to bring about the Patriot Act, to have the possibility to create new agencies, Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, and so forth, more intelligence agencies, tighter control, more surveillance, of course, major wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the covert wars that we don't even know about, trillions of dollars in the pockets of the military-industrial complex, the revamping of the world's security, tighter surveillance in all areas of the world, terror attacks that followed only manifested this trend. So we can see that the story very quickly shows us how do they react, because that's what they want to bring about. The world of these sick psychopaths works like this. Here's what we want to do, and here's the fear and the events and the terror we need to create so people will follow along. And that's what happened. Again, fast forward after hundreds and thousands of other fake events. We look at what happened over the past 2.5 years now. What are the inconsistencies? It was very clear from the very beginning. Some things just didn't add up. There was no chain of custody, chain of events, no receipts, if you will. This whole story, this whole notion that a new virus jumped from a bat to a human being, and then it got brought into the whole world. I mean, there's been so much doubt around that whole story, and of course, so many other explanations. But most importantly, within a matter of days, once again, and weeks, it became very clear that the official narrative just couldn't be true. It just couldn't have happened that way. Then people started to go, okay, this apparently didn't happen. Now, what should have happened at that moment in time is the withdrawal of trust from all the authorities that pretend to keep you safe and want to keep you safe. Because if they're lying about the story and of what happened, obviously they don't have your best interest at heart. Why lie about it, right? So that is so important, that the research of conspiracy theories is not about finding out what exactly happened in the first first place. It's about finding out what didn't happen. Then you can take your trust away from the media, trust away from government, which should happen on a mass scale anyways. That should be the natural reaction, because only if we take the power from them and take it back, we will actually get into positions where we will be able to find out what truly happened, who truly did it, and why they really did it. From where we sit most of the time, we cannot do this. And so many people fall into the trap of believing people, anyone, even us, believing us. We don't want you to just believe us. They fall into the trap of believing some crazy theories that make no sense, that reject all logic, reject all common sense, because they want to hope, because they want to believe that there is something, a better explanation out there. But let me tell you something. Most of these narratives about these events are also not true. Most of the narratives about 9/11, the alternative theories about what happened are not true. You know why? Because they're being created at the same time as the actual event. Don't you think that the people who perpetrate such an event, that create such a false flag attack, also anticipate there's going to be conspiracy theories? So what do? They already create fake theories before the event that they're going to spread through alternative websites and media that are going to have half-truths in them, but mainly lies, so people get on the wrong track. Research, dissection, and real investigation, it's actually a lot of work. You need to go into all officially available documents and government websites, because what's on there isn't necessarily true, but it allows you to later say, but this is what you reported, this is what you said. You need to go into the details and dissect it. With an event like 9/11 or event like COVID-19, we did that dissection. We went into thousands of pages of records. With 9/11, FAA records show something very strange. None of the planes officially ever took off that day that were apparently involved in the attacks. If you look at the Social Security Death Index, which is the index in the United States where everybody who dies after a certain period of time that had a Social Security number, they show up in that Social Security Death Index. A lot of the passengers of the planes never showed up on that Social Security Death Index. There's inconsistencies over inconsistencies over inconsistencies. The bottom line of all of this is that we will never, I won't say never, but most likely, not anytime soon, find out what really happened with JFK. We have a lot of theories, but what really happened, it might take some time. It's all classified, right? About 9/11, pretty much the same thing. What we can say with certainty is what didn't happen. And that should lead us to withdraw our energy, withdraw our trust from these so-called authorities and take it back to us where the power really lies, and realize we're being lied to over and over again. Take the power back, take the control back, start bringing real people, good people, into positions of authority, of leadership, locally and on the state level and on the county levels and on the federal levels even, so we can have trusted representation that is actually true leadership. This is not impossible. It just seems so because we haven't seen it in such a long time, because all we've seen are lies and deception. But it is possible. People are awakening. But we need to go about these quote unquote conspiracy theories in the right way, or we'll be sidetracked all the time. Focus, eye on the ball. What didn't happen? It's very easy to find out in the beginning. You can dissect the narrative. The truth is the truth, can be questioned and dissected. It will remain the truth. If it's a lie, it will fall apart. That's the moment. Then look at how do they react to that event? What do they propose the solutions are? And then look at who benefits. That will give you a complete picture. That is basically the guideline of any good research. And we all need to become these researchers, whether we're experts or physicists or chemists or biologists, it doesn't matter. You can research what happened over the past 2.5 years, but you can do that by yourself. Well, who invented PCR tests? What did that guy say about PCR tests? It's easy to find out. It's easy to find out. All right, Inspired Tribe, I hope this gave you some inspiration on how conspiracy theories work, why so many of them are actually misguided on purpose, and how you can see through the fog and find out what you need to know to base your decisions. Always remember, if you base your decisions on fear and lies, that's what's going to be the outcome for you in your life. It's going to be something that's not authentic and not truthful. You're going to continue to have negative experiences. If you base your decisions on love and truth, that's what you're going to have more of in your life. This is the age of discernment, and it leads to enlightenment. And let me end with my favorite quote. Before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for being here with us. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.